Good morning, everybody. It's Jillian, and it's cold outside. It's kind of nice that I have some old friends coming back from way back in my chemtrails conspiracy days, and they're doing different things, and it's pretty awesome. They're back because, well, I didn't ask, but I have a feeling of why, and that's fine. It's all good. I don't get mad when people come back. I think it's great. So yeah, I was listening last night to or this morning actually, to YouTube, and I figured out Jimmy Hoffa, what happened to Jimmy Hoffa. I didn't really figure it out. I just watched a bunch of videos, and there's so much information on the internet that you don't know what is true, what's not, or even where to find it. And you have to almost listen to so many videos to kind of find the information that really makes sense. So when you put it all together, it's all confirming each other. But I found a segment on like some Channel 8 program, and I forget, it's on YouTube, where they figured out what happened to Jimmy Hoffa. Ed Sheeran, who is a major like mob connection, who done a lot of killings for the Dons and everything, he admitted that Jimmy Hoffa he disappeared in 1975, and he was the one that they stabbed him, killed him, had people wait in the house to clean up the mess. Then they took the body to an incinerator, to a funeral home, and incinerated him. So you're never going to find Jimmy Hoffa. He's not buried anywhere. He's been incinerated. And so I guess back then it was easy to incinerate bodies and disappear them rather than burying them where you can find the evidence. So there's that mystery solved from way back in 1975. And also too, some of the interviews of these mob bosses on these YouTube channels did say that, yeah, the mafia did want to get rid of him because he knew too much about Vegas mob connections and the Vegas stuff, and he was really powerful back in the Teamster days when the trucker Teamsters were running everything, as well as the mafia. So it's interesting that I come from a time when there was still a lot of political unrest. We were still growing as a country, figuring out how the games are being played, and then new games are being thrown at us. And so, we are evolving as a Western society. So we're going to make mistakes. We're going to look back and see hindsight's 2020. The FBI, the CIA, Republican Party, Democrat Party, all are going to be learning from mistakes and trying to find a way to balance everything out. And I'll tell you, it's not very easy, obviously, as you can see. So I wanted to kind of put that out there, because that was interesting to me. As I'm always seeing, like, what happened to Jimmy Hoffa? And like, who the hell is Jimmy Hoffa? And then I go look, and then I do research, and then you figure out how many videos you got to watch to kind of put it all together. And then one video just kind of clinches it and confirms everything that you've watched. Because I've watched so many videos on Jimmy Hoffa, it's unreal. Okay, so as far as the autism antibody link, all right, so we already established that sepsis, which is basically infection that hits a body that is so weak, and then antibodies accumulate, and then people have what you call blood poisoning, where they have too many antibodies, then thickening up the blood and then shutting the vital organs down. So that's why when somebody has an infection, they try to stop the antibody acquisition very quickly with anti-inflammatories, because they don't want to risk blood poisoning, sepsis, all of that. But remember, we're dealing with people with weak bodies, okay? And so with this whole autism thing, it's not the vaccines. Yes, the vaccines bring up antibodies, but you're going to be exposed to these viruses and bacteria that have been invaded by viruses. No matter what, you can't get away from it. So if you have a weak body, and you have kind of you have a weak body and a sluggish immune system, but you still are going to be producing antibodies, then it does stand to reason with predispositions why someone who is vaccinated and unvaccinated would still trigger autism, because kids are still being born on a week from parents who haven't haven't gotten to the root cause of their issues. They have not reversed their issues. So kids are that much weaker, and that's why you're seeing a rise in exotic diseases. I mean, why do you see that? Well, the vaccine schedule is so prevalent is because we have, okay, so people are likening this as the reason why the vaccine schedule is the reason why we have autism. No, this is basically showing you how weak the population is. Because if you're exposed to all of these different viruses in the environment and you have no type of protection, no layer of antibodies to fight the actual virus in the environment, you're going to have an aggressive symptomatic reaction that is going to accumulate antibodies very quickly on a very weak body. And then this is where people go blind. This is where people trigger their predispositions prematurely. Instead of triggering their predispositions like 15 years from now, and they could potentially, trigger something different, not the actual predisposition because their lifestyle. But no, when you are exposed to these viruses in the environment with no protection, and you're not even doing anything that's going to strengthen your body, okay, you're going to trigger your predispositions early, and it could turn into autism, it could turn into childhood cancer, childhood diabetes, juvenile diabetes. It could be anything, okay? So the cause of death in people is basically antibodies, and then how those antibodies then impact your vital organs. And so when they say, okay, this person died of a heart attack, of a stroke, an aneurysm, they drowned in their own fluids because of the lack of dopamine, allowing the muscles to move and allow you to swallow. That's from Parkinson's. It's all based upon the imbalances in the biochemistry. Imbalances in your fatty acid, amino acids, prohormones, and minerals. And then what happens is that then you have a weakness and you have infections that happen all over the body, and the antibodies get created because of those imbalances. And then you're exposed to things that are causing more imbalances, or you're taking in foods that are causing more imbalances because you have imbalances that are never corrected. And then this is why people trigger cancer, disease, chronic illness, all the different crazy ass diagnoses. Because we have basically antibody acquisition left unchecked. And so what the JJuice does, it has the electrolytes, and it has the cabbage and the kale fermented down to a pre-digested state. It has the water, it has the probiotic, and it breaks up those antibodies and allows it, disperses it, and then your filtration process, when you do waterfalls and you eliminate, you are eliminating excess antibodies. You still have a few to keep the protection, but it's not overabundant to where it agglutinates. And when it agglutinates, it turns into then a symptomatic virus that people start treating antivirals for. Antivirals are not killing the virus, it just treats the symptoms. It suppresses your healing process. Okay, so it makes sense of why autism is impacted by antibodies, which means that autism can be reversed under the right chemistry. Okay, so that's what I've put out there, which I can't put on my website, but I can say through Facebook and through YouTube that JJuice can definitely have the potential to reverse a child's autism. But you have to understand what the kid has to go through. They have to go through a healing process. But yeah, the potential is there to reverse your child's autism, because all it is antibodies from you and from the weak body that hasn't been released yet, and it got into the brain and causes cognitive anomalies. And that's also with MS or any neurological disease that's out there. Every single cancer, disease, and chronic illness, whatever diagnosis, can be dealt with JJuice and potentially reversed. Every single one. And potentially regrow limbs and organs, even if you're born without them. Okay? So, but I can't say that on my website because that would be misleading according to the FTC, because there's no proof. It has to go through a double-blind study, and it has to be sanctioned by the medical officials and biotech and all of that. And this is something that you're not going to be able to prove until people actually understand what and why the JJuice exists and what you have to go through. And the medical community is about pain mitigation. So there's no way they're going to sanction or say that I can say this unless the medical community signs off on it. So that's why I say it through Facebook. Okay? And I keep everything very benign. I just talk on my website, just talk about cabbage, water, and salt and the power of it. And then go to my YouTube, go to my Facebook if you want to know more, or get my book so you can do the protocol. And even in the book, it doesn't say that it's going to do this, this, and this, and talk about cures, because it's not a cure. Okay, but it does tell you in a very roundabout way, indirect way, well, actually not even indirect, it says that everything is connected. Everything in your body is connected. There is nothing compartmentalized all by itself that should be treated as if it was all by itself. But that's how the holistic allopathic community has dealt with cancer, disease, and chronic illness, as if it was something on its own in a vacuum by itself. Now, the reason why vaccines exist is because we have people who are weak, okay? And so they get an attenuated version of that virus in the environment with minerals that you're exposed to anyways, and bacteria that you're exposed to anyways, and that excites the immune system to create antibodies to give you a layer of protection. And yeah, you're going to have inflammation. You know why? It's called antibodies. Inflammation is from antibodies. So when you have an adverse reaction, a mild one or a very adverse one, it's based upon how weak or strong your body is. So when you get a measles shot and you see the kid turn red, that's antibodies working. That's how it works. It means the vaccine's working. Because imagine if you get exposed to a virus out there in the environment and your body shuts down because of so much, a deluge of antibodies completely rapidly building up at such a fast pace, and you have a weak body. Yeah, kids die, or they get major adverse reactions like blindness or, heart failure. So it's like, so right now, Darwinism and depopulation is actually self-induced. As far as Darwinism is just Mother Nature doing what she does best. She is the judge, jury, and executioner, and man is the one that brings in due process. Man gives you a stay of execution. But right now you're seeing, I don't know who hired Andrew Wakefield. I don't know who hired any of these anti-vaxxer people out there to go and plant seeds of destruction to humanity. But I'm thinking that is the depopulation agenda, is the anti-vax community, coupled with the holistic world throwing the wrong chemistry at very weak bodies. Because you're seeing mothers shoving garlic cloves down their kids' throat. You're seeing mothers shoving elderberry syrup and turmeric and honey and kombucha and apple cider vinegar down their kids' throats, thinking that it's going to be in lieu of the vaccines, the pharmaceuticals. And then you have all of these conspiracy articles saying that, America is channeling Nazism, channeling Hitler, and then people are putting two and two together that shouldn't be put together, and then they're creating their own narrative, and now they have it in their head that America is trying to kill you, when in essence they're actually trying to save you. Completely the opposite of what you're thinking from all these articles. But I remember reading stuff, in the Alex Jones world about Charlotte Iserbite. I'm sure you've heard of her. She was talking about the Russian infiltration, the communist propaganda in the education system, which, okay, I understand we need education. We have to have a collective thought process to then have a well-functioning society. However, communist thought has definitely infiltrated America. And it's been a long-standing battle as far as McCarthyism. And then in California, and that's a socialist state. Okay, and I'm thinking like, what is, I mean, there's probably some truth to the Alex Jones world, and there's a lot of a conspiracy stuff. But I can't ignore that, yeah, I mean, California is a state unto its own, and you don't know really how people live. Like, you're in a bubble in California. You really don't know how the rest of the world lives until you move out of California. And it took me to leave because I was dying in California. I really was. I was dying in a socialist state that really didn't offer anything but stays of execution. But even then, I didn't get a stay of execution. Well, yeah, when I went to Kaiser to deal with my PMDD, what do they recommend to me? They recommended Prozac. When I was at my worst in like 2003 in San Francisco, paying $300 a month to Kaiser, okay? Because I thought I needed to have the health insurance. It was a single, individual. I wasn't part of any group plan. I was paying basically $300 a month to Kaiser. Okay, so when I was suffering through my PMDD, I went to Kaiser in California, and guess what? I told them all of my symptoms, all of what I was dealing with, and they said, okay, well, we want to prescribe you Prozac. And I'm like, I took it for about a month. I did not like how I felt. And that in a lot of ways, in my opinion, okay, this is my opinion, that is a socialist way of dealing with issues. It's medication. It's not saying, how can we make you healthier? No, they want to throw something to anesthetize you, keep you in the same thought process, but not make you better, but just kind of take away the feelings, kind of zombify you. There's nothing proactive about medication. There's nothing proactive. I mean, yes, there is something like where you need medical intervention for an emergency, like triage, and that is to stop the bleeding, stop the, when you have cancer and it's like rapidly multiplying, you throw chemotherapy really quickly, and then it stops it, and that just stops the programming in its tracks. And then what you're supposed to do is actually then regenerate your cells. But that's not, they don't know this because they've never thought about cell regeneration at the level of something like cabbage juice. But that's the indefinite reliance, the dependency on drugs and procedures is a very socialist way of thinking. There is no proactivity. Okay, use superficial diet changes. But no, I mean, when you think about it, let's look up these political parties, because I've been focusing on political parties lately, and there's a reason why. There's a reason why. Because what you subscribe to as far as political parties tells you exactly how you handle your finances, how you will handle problems, and then how you will deal with people with issues. Oh, my husband's saying, call me when you're done. Okay, hold on. All right. So the Democrat Party. So I've been I came out as a Republican. Okay, and believe me, I had a lot of trepidation coming out and taking a side. Because as soon as you take a side in the mainstream, ooh, I'm telling you, everybody and their mother wants to go and destroy you because you didn't take their side. And so I knew with the whole anti-vax, pro-vax thing, okay, that's easy to take a side because I have the whole thing with, their whole argument. That was an easy argument, very easily substantiated. Okay, the anti-government easily substantiated because you have the conspiracy community has so much quote unquote evidence to prove why it is the government sucks. Okay, fine, not too much, not too hard there. But when you take a side in mainstream media, especially when I've been anti-government for such a long time, was probably one of the biggest steps in now getting back into the fold of society. Okay, because even though I say it's the matrix, it is until you understand how you can go in and be this anomaly in the matrix and then change it from within. You can't change society standing outside of society. And that's where I was for a few years. Is I was like, okay, I don't want to be like the mainstream and the alternative mainstream, so I'm going to be like this third party, like an independent. Okay, and that's what I see independence is someone that someone that thinks that they're different, but they still subscribe to the same ideals. They still get the benefits of both parties. Okay, but they don't want to call themselves a Democrat or Republican, so they call themselves independent. Well, that's exactly the way JJuice is. She was trying to be like an independent, even though she says, oh, I'm not like the mainstream and the alternative mainstream. I am everything like it, but I have the only thing that's different than me and the mainstream and the alternative mainstream is the outcome. Everything else is the same. The symptoms are the same, just how it's characterized is different. You know, pain is not a bad thing. Pain is healing, but their whole premise is to mitigate it. Okay, my premise is to mitigate it, but the outcome is the difference. Okay, the answer to life is life, not the answer to life is death. That's the only difference between JJuice and the alternative mainstream and the mainstream. But everything else is the same. So now I'm trying to capitalize on the similarities of myself and the mainstream with only a different outcome. The conclusion is actually the difference. Okay? So JJuice is now going to weave herself back into society and infiltrate that way with a different outcome. I planted a seed. You can't take that seed back. It's already out there. Dr. Phil put it out there. PewDiePie put it out there. Jeff Holiday, Pathos, Daily Mail, Newsweek. I mean, everybody put out the seed that I planted. Oh yeah, I was attacked and I had to deal with that. But the seed is out there and it's going to germinate. But now I have to understand why it is that people think the way they do, who I'm going to target, who I'm really speaking to as far as the JJuice. Because let me tell you, even with me not even subscribing to a Democrat or Republican type of political ideology, I still had haters. It was if I didn't really leave society in as far as JJuice world, because there's still a specific type of person that will not do JJuice at all whatsoever. You can't make them, you can't force them. Of course you can't force them, but there'll be nothing that I say that's going to penetrate their programming. Nothing. Because they will still subscribe to the fact that they have no control or that God meant for them to die, so they're going to embrace death. I can't speak to that. So those are not my people. So I have to pick who my people are. I have to be discriminatory. I'm not going to put my energy into something that is futile. And that's kind of what goes on in the allopathic holistic, is that people are putting their energy into futility. If I'm going to at least get half a chance of somebody understanding this, I got to target a specific type of person. And they got to be independent. They got to be able to be proactive, do preemptive things. They have to actually do the work. They can't just pay lip service to it, say, oh yeah, I'm doing it, but then they do nothing and it shows they're doing nothing. And they, you know, and they put their money where their mouth is. Okay, and guess what? That's a Republican type of characteristic. Because I'm going to read you the other side of it, which is the Democrats. Okay, so you understand where I'm coming from. The modern Democratic Party emphasizes egalitarianism, equalness, okay, fine. Social equality, which means they're saying there isn't social equality. Okay. Protecting the environment, strengthening the social safety net through liberalism. They support voting rights and minority rights, including LGBT rights, multiculturalism, and religious secularism. So these are all how you manage your social issues. Okay, so when you look up what social issues are, because that's basically all that is basically social issues. Okay, so what are social issues? And these are the things that that I pulled out of Google. Social issues like suicide, inequality, addiction, racism, news, what is it? Can I read that? Immigration, problems, abuse, rights, topics, gay, care, contemporary healthcare. Okay, there's so anything that's an issue. That's why I say the very word issue says there's a problem with a person's ability to adapt to a society. So they're not either not following laws, or they're a criminal, or they have such health issues that they can't possibly really compete in this society or earn a living for themselves. Okay, so the very word issue says there's a problem with a person's ability to adapt to a society. They do not feel they have the capability to forge their own path, and they base their self-worth on somebody else's opinion of them, and they're not ready to forge their own path yet. Earning and competing in a world full of diverse capabilities is the name of the game. Okay? I think you can be yourself at the appropriate times. And when it comes to business, this is where you must homogenize yourself, which means make yourself like everybody else, so you can fit in. And I had trouble doing that a long time ago, before the internet. Well, actually, it's in 2000, because I wanted to be myself and then try to fit into a corporate culture. It wasn't going to work. Okay, so I think you can be yourself at the appropriate times. And when it comes to business, this is where you must homogenize yourself so you can fit in and compete on an equal playing field without giving somebody a reason to judge you and take you out of the running. However, now we're in a new time where everybody can find out who everybody is and their politics and their weaknesses and their strengths by just Googling them. Social media has killed off anonymity, and so all people do is just Google you and Facebook you, and they will find everything they want to know about you, which means that now you are forced to find like-minded people and cater to them. The internet has given people the opportunity to be a pure capitalist and to target their market accordingly, and then study the data in their environment. Can we really afford to be catering to your social issues? Or do we need to be more strategic in our approach to making a living and finding a need and then capitalizing on that without breaking the law? Instead of perpetuating the social issues, why don't we work on getting people so healthy and well balanced that way we don't have to mention or have a political party that caters to social issues. So, you know, when people move from like the Midwest to California because of whatever issues they have, great. If you can't make it in the Midwest because of your predispositions or your whatever it is, your social issue, and you move to California, to San Francisco, and you're thriving, hell yeah, good for you. That's exactly what Republicanism is about, is that you pick yourself up from your own bootstraps, move somewhere that is going to cater to your strengths. Okay, that's exactly what I did. I took myself out of a place that was so socialistic because I'm more entrepreneurial, I'm more Republican, I'm more independent, entrepreneurial, like I said. But that was not being nurtured in the way that I needed to in California. Even though I started to start my own agency, but I wasn't ready to build up that business yet, or I wasn't getting the proper mentorship, and I didn't know how to look for it, and I was trying to find myself back then in 2008 before I met my husband. But I was dealing with my own PMDD, so that was influencing my ability to make right choices. Okay, and so I knew, okay, if I can't make it here in California and it was not helping me, okay, then I'm going to move somewhere where I can actually flourish. So that's why when a person is not making it, they go and find a place where they can make it. Okay, that's a Republican kind of attitude. You don't sit and wallow, okay, like, you know, and have and apply for all these programs that are going to give you and make you stay in that position, and then, I don't know, make you feel like it's okay and justified because you're a minority and you have all these issues, you have all these medical issues, so now we're going to give you all this disability. Because I'm just thinking that actually, yeah, disability is also a long-term disability is a Democrat type of mentality. It's a socialist mentality, you know. When you trigger cancer, disease, and chronic illness because you didn't take care of your body, and now you want to live off the dole, the public dole, that's a very socialist thing, and that's not a Republican thing. And so my thing is, I don't want to live off the public dole. I want to forge my own path. I want to build up my own body, minerals, to be productive, to stay productive on an indefinite basis. But what happens is that we have so many predispositions and people with cancer, disease, and chronic illness triggering the system that early, and they are degrading. So that's why, who is it? Roosevelt, I think, or so, yeah, who created the Social Security system for those that are aging and degrading, that can't contribute to the system anymore. And that is a socialist aspect of America. So that's why we have the disparate, you know, the differences between Democrat, Republican, because you'll be a Democrat in the beginning when you're young, triggering the system to give you free education and healthcare and all that. If you have a qualifying reason. And then when you get in your 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s, then you're a Republican making your money, and then you turn Democrat again, because now you have to get on the public dole and take Social Security, disability, Medicare, all these different things, because you can't make it in society because you have health issues. But we're seeing people triggering these health issues way before, so they're on all these programs way before they should be triggering, and it's taking from the system. And so when you have so many people taken from the system, not contributing, that's when you see then a socialist economy. And then everybody's equally poor because no one's giving to the system. So it's going to be interesting to see all the baby boomers, when they all retire, they're going to deplete Social Security. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm making assumptions, but that's going to really tax that part of the budget. When you have all these baby boomers finally retiring and drawing Social Security at different levels, it's going to be interesting. So I plan to be doing what I'm doing, paving my way indefinitely, and keep building my body, okay? So that way I can stay a Republican. Well, what's a Republican? What's a Republican? I see you, honey. I will call you when I'm done. I got your message. Jason. Okay. So the GOP, the grand old party, supports lower taxes because they don't want to be giving money to people that are not contributing. Yes, there are people that are disabled and okay, and we're going to have to deal with that, but I'm sure there's some way that some people who are disabled can find a way to contribute. Okay? So that's why it's really awesome to see when somebody has like autism and no one wants to hire them, and they open up their own coffee shop, and then they cater to those that are like them, with to have maybe an advisor to help them oversee the bigger parts of the business, but they're able to go and be the face of their business. Hey, I have autism, and that's not going to stop me. I'm going to still make my money. I'm going to serve you coffee. That's a Republican way of dealing with disabilities. If you're able to walk, even if you're not able to walk and you're in a wheelchair, that's how Republicans look at that. No matter what kind of disability you have, there's something that you can do to contribute to the world and make money, pay your taxes, and be that kind of citizen. So the GOP supports lower taxes, free market capitalism. Yes, whatever you put out there, you should get back, and not have it be like all of it given to somebody who's not doing anything, right? Restrictions on immigration. Well, yeah, I mean, if you have so many people coming in and not enough contributing, and we're trying to get them all going, and they have like issues like, they're full gangs, or they're like back in the mafia days, they're running scams and doing and strong arming the law. Well, we want to vet out our immigrants before, because it's not like we're nation building anymore. It's not Ellis Island where we're trying to bring people in to build up a nation. The nation's already built. Now it's, are you going to contribute and maintain what we've created? That's why there's restrictions on immigration, okay? And if you're not being sponsored by someone that's going to take up the slack, as far as like my parents, when I was adopted, they took care of my education. They took care of my food and my shelter and whatever else. I wasn't on the public dole. My parents were both capitalists and socialists. Biotech versus my mom doing the social services, writing, and that's what socialists too is, where you're writing for free money, grant money, to then do all these studies to then who knows what, maintain a house that's full of, so anyways, increased military spending. Well, yeah, that's like, being proactive, like getting a vaccine, building up antibodies. So when you get out there in the environment, you're not being overrun by a virus. on a weak body, completely shutting down your vital organs. Okay, so you look at the military spending. You don't want to have a weak military in a world that doesn't like America. You want to have an increased military spending. So that's why Trump is so amazing, is because we allowed the antibodies to not build up back with Obama. Okay, fine. And so now all these forces are building up and planning crap. And then Trump will go in and do what he has to do. But instead of doing a carpet bomb, like in Vietnam, now it's surgical precision. Take out specifically, now it's playing whack-a-mole, no different than the medical industry when you're dealing with symptoms, you know, taking your pills and doing surgeries, but at least it's keeping the pressure up. Okay, and that's what the medical community does, and that's why we have such a large, thriving societies, because we have stays of execution. We have the medical community, we have the military to give us a stay of execution, so we don't have a complete decimation like we had like in Pearl Harbor or in other places. Okay, so gun rights, yeah, you know, I need to protect myself. I don't want some dude coming into my house trying to rape me and I have no protection. Okay, so gun rights is very, very, you know, important. Restrictions on abortion. Well, okay, there's that, and it all comes down to when you have a society that's full of different predispositions and the body is triggering eggs dropping, and then girls are going to be promiscuous, guys are going to be all over the place trying to chase the tail. Sex is inevitable with young people, because that's when all their hormones are going and they're not very healthy because of the parents not very healthy. So it's going to be inevitable that young people are going to be procreating. And here's the thing. The premise of that is that we want to compete in a lot of ways with China, which they have 1 billion people. We have 300 million, but I don't think even taking away abortion is going to give us 1 billion people on this planet. But the whole thing is numbers. Strengths are in numbers. Now, I know it destroys a woman's body and all of that, but that's, you know, if you're going to engage in those types of rituals, whatever they are, that's the potential outcome. You got to take responsibility. And if you can afford to do the things that are alternative, then fine. But should I guess the system pay for it? Okay. So, I mean, that's really what it comes down to. It's not that they're saying that nobody can get abortion. It's just who's going to pay for it. But it does come down to, too, they don't want people getting those abortions in some place. Some very fundamentalist states are against abortions. Okay. Deregulation and restrictions on labor unions. Well, we see what happened with Jimmy Hoffa, and then the strong arming of the, you know, of the corporations and of the law enforcement, of the politicians. It can be quite imbalanced when somebody says, oh, well, I think I should be promoted because of this, or they did something totally wrong, and the company wants to fire them. Okay, I mean, here's the thing, you know, I think we're in a state where, you know, you're, what is it, right to hire state? I'm in a right to hire state. And so if you're performing at your best and you're giving to the company, they're not going to fire you. But if you're not measuring up and you're not pulling your weight, then why would they want to carry somebody that's not pulling their weight? It's a very, very Republican attitude, but it's like, hey, it's a capitalistic, it's like, hey, you either compete really and you earn your way, earn your place. And if you don't like who you're working with and they're all, you know, whatever, then you go and find another company. And if you don't like the state that you live in, you move to a different state that's more friendly to your type of thinking. I moved out of California. There was no freaking way I was going to stay in California the way they run their stuff. I was dying in California. And so I found somebody in another state, my husband, who has pure Republican characteristics, you know, at least right now in his prime of life, though it might change in the next 20 years for him. But that's his choice. But I found someone that is strong to help me really hone in on who I am. I had to find myself the last 10 years of my life. Thank God I did through the JJuice. Okay? So that's why I've been focusing on Republican versus Democrat, because I had to find a characteristic that's already been created out there. And it's there. It's right there. You see the difference between the Democrats and the Republicans. You see it. Does it mean that people who are Democrat aren't Republican? Yeah, there's probably a bunch of Democrats that don't even know that they're freaking Republican in characteristic and really and fundamentally Republican, but they live in a Democrat world. They're getting money from the government to help with their nonprofit. Of course they're going to be Democrat because their very lifestyle depends upon grant money from the government. Okay? But that money, I mean, you look at San Francisco, that money is not going to the right places, and there's not enough contributors in parts of California, and so you're seeing homeless. So I'm glad that I finally got out from being a third party, so to speak, because when you think about it, what JJuice was like the independents and the Democrats and Republicans. Okay? So now JJuice is going to interweave herself back into society and substantiate why she is now specifically targeting a type of person to do the JJuice. Not all Republicans are going to do JJuice. There are some Republicans out there that have very Democrat principles. Okay? So, but the JJuice fundamentally is a Republican type of protocol. It's a bootstrap protocol. You earn your health. You have to work for it. You have to go buy the cabbage, water, and salt. You still got to abide by the laws of your body as well as the laws of society. And then you will be contributing. You will actually you'll be generating from nothing when you think about it. You're not taking somebody else's money and living off of that on an indefinite basis. You're creating your contribution to society. JJuice, I pay taxes on my income. I give part of my income to one of my moderators. Guess what? I'm contributing to my society with JJuice. And then I'm helping all of you gain some kind of strength through JJuice to then contribute to your society overall. That's a Republican characteristic. It's entrepreneurial spirit. It's innovation. It's what America really stood for until people started degrading. So I want to bring this back to the roots of really what America stood for way back before social programs became like the part of the landscape. And so, yeah, when you're aging and degrading, or when you are full of issues, then people want money for their issues. What if we had everybody healthy and well? We wouldn't have all these social issues. We wouldn't have all these programs to divert the money. You would actually get whatever it is you put out there because there's no one that needs the help. Everyone's basically taking care of himself with a little bit of help of like a government to keep the infrastructure going, because you can't possibly build the roads. You need someone to manage those, to build the roads and build the houses and to manage the codes, the health codes and the safety codes, OSHA and all that stuff. EPA and the FDA and the CDC and the USDA, WHO, EPA. I think I said that already. So that's why JJuice is so Republican. That's why I am backing Trump. He embodies the very spirit. He's a cockroach just like me, will never die as far as his reinventing himself. Because I will continue to reinvent myself until people get this. And I hope that Trump pulls through this whole impeachment process. If he doesn't, that's fine. I still back him no matter what. Okay, that's why I said, # selective enforcement 2020. Because, yeah, I mean, you can look for a problem, you can ignore a problem, or you can create a problem that doesn't exist. And so the Democrats are doing everything they can to create a problem that doesn't exist when they look the other way with Benghazi. So whatever. No matter what, he's still my president. And that's all I have to say. Have a great day, guys. Bye.